Hi guys, hope you're all doing well. It's Jamie. I'm back again for my 8th review this time. Today I'm going to be looking at a totally unpeated whiskey from the Highland region of Scotland. It's not actually technically Highland though in one case. It's an interesting one because it's situated right on the border between Highland and Lowland. How does that work? We'll find out when I review the Glengoyne 10-year-old whiskey. Sit back, enjoy, and pour yourself a drink. Yeah, so it's been a couple of weeks since I've done my last review. The last review I did was of the Arran, which was an island whiskey. We're now crossing back onto the mainland to a distillery that's located just north of Glasgow and not too far from the Trossachs. It's meant to be one of the most beautiful distilleries in the whole of Scotland. It is the Glengoyne distillery and apparently it's well worth a visit. Now Glengoyne opened in 1833 and as I said in the introduction, they're situated right in between the Highlands of Scotland and the Lowlands. It's literally a distillery that's split in two by that border. The whiskey itself is distilled in the Highlands using a Highland water source, but matured in the other part of the distillery in the Lowlands. But they call themselves a Highland whiskey, and I suppose the character reflects where it's based. It's a really nice dram. It's one of the most Moorish whiskies I think I've had, and it's just a good all-rounder really. But anyway, I'll get onto my summary later properly. It's also a whiskey that's interesting in the fact that it is completely unpeated. Instead of using barley to dry the malt, they use a kiln with hot air. So it's just completely hot air that dries the barley. So none of their whiskies in any of their expressions are peated in any way whatsoever. And I think it's good, especially if you're someone who's been into peat and has a lot of whiskies that have got that character, just to try something like this that doesn't have that. And it just broadens your horizons. It helps your palate evolve and refine and get used to different things. When you come back to peated whiskey, it's amazing how refreshing it is again, because you've spent a bit of time away from that scene. And that's what I've actually been doing this summer. The last few reviews I've done, well in fact the last I think 6 reviews I've done, have been of whiskies that aren't particularly peated or very low peat or smoke. And I tried a whiskey that was mildly peated the other night, which I'm going to review soon, called the Benromach 10, which is bloody good, I must say. And I was like, wow, this is strong. This is quite peated and quite smoky. And it was like kind of fresh and new to me again. Anyway, I'm going off the point a bit, sorry. Let's get back to the Glengoyne. As I said, this is the 10-year. I've been enjoying it, as you can see, quite a bit. Received it a few weeks ago. Is there anything else I need to tell you about this whiskey particularly before we start? Tell you about the expressions they do actually. They do, as I said, this is the 10-year, so this is the entry-level one. You can get it for £32 in the UK. I got this off Amazon for 32 quid. It's worth every penny in my view. And then after this they go up to the 12-year and the 12-year cask strength. They do a 15, an 18, a 21-year-old, a 25-year-old and a 30-year-old. And I think that's it. They are not a distillery that has all these gimmicky releases and strange fancy names and over-the-top packaging. It's kind of, relatively basic packaging, tells you what you need on the back and is well presented in my view. Uses American and European oak and ex-sherry casks. As I said, this is also 40% natural colour. It doesn't say anything about the chill filtration process, so I'm not entirely sure if it's chill filtered or not. But let's just say that it is natural colour, which it states here on the label. The distillation process is very slow as well, apparently. and that's something that which they take pride in. Yeah, so bottled at 40%, and that's fine. We'll see how that affects the experience. So they're kind of on a halfway house with that one. But anyway, this is a whiskey I poured about 15 minutes earlier to let it breathe. So let's see what it smells like. Now the nose has opened up a lot since I first opened the bottle. When I first got the bottle, I was a little bit underwhelmed. Leave this whiskey for a few days or a week or so, let it breathe, come back to it, you'll be pleasantly surprised. On the nose, it's a very pleasant run-of-the-mill nose. There's nothing here that you're going to smell that you're going to be like blown away by. It doesn't hit you with any specific major characteristics like something like some other whiskies do. It's just very pleasant, and it's slightly spirity as well. You can smell the alcohol off it. It's only 40%, but I find with whiskies that aren't peated, I find I can smell the alcohol more than when a whiskey has peat in it. Peat or smoke tends to cover up and round out that kind of alcoholic nose, which unpeated whiskies tend not to. The first thing I get from this is green apples, fruit, citrus fruit, toffee. Those are the main characteristics. It's quite a light nose. It's very inviting. It's it's fruit and with some toffee, and yeah, that's the kind of the vibe I get off the nose on this one. When you taste it, now that is what you call a smooth whiskey. First of all, when it hits your tongue, it's just a pleasant mouthfeel. Nothing intense. Nice and smooth. When you take it in, even though it's quite a light whiskey, when you swallow, you do get some of that spiciness coming through. You know, you get this lovely toffee nutty taste. The aftertaste and the finish especially is more of that nuttiness that comes through for me anyway. So on the nose, it tends to have more of the fruity aspects. On the palate, more fruit, more toffee, and then when you on the finish and has the fading away of the whiskey, you're left with this residual sort of malty nuttiness, and it really is good. You know, the first couple of sips, you might be like, oh, it's very nice. You know, the finish is very clean. It's not a foolhardy whiskey. Saying that, about 10 days ago, I came back from having a few drinks with a few friends, and my aim was to have one of these and go to bed. And 3 in the I was on my 4th or 5th, which is unlike me, I promise. It's very unlike me. But in this instance, I just I couldn't get enough of this, and it's sort of a case of the more you have, the more tasty it got, and the more engaging it was, and you find things in it that you didn't find before. With whiskey, I find just having 1 or 2 sips or a quick glass, you don't get the full experience of it. When you have a few more, not half a bottle, mind, but a few more, you start to really dig into what whiskey has to offer. And even a whiskey like this, which might be a little bit friendly and light and sort of middle of the road for some people on first tasting, you give it a bit of time, let it become your friend, because this is definitely worth it. It's one of the most Moorish whiskies I've had. It's perfect for any time of the year. It's 34 degrees out there today. Oh, so it's a hot day. I don't think I could handle anything too intense. And it's a distillery which I really am interested in checking out some more expressions of. But I highly recommend it. It's really delicious. Even for the peat heads out there, come back to something like this. It kind of resets your palate, and um, you enjoy just going back to sort of the basics. So when I say the basics, this isn't a basic whiskey. It's a very well made whiskey with a lot to offer, and it's very smooth. It's very tasty, and it's got some really nice interplay between that sort of like toffee and nutty and fruity aroma. It is actually does what it says in the tin. I've read some things on other whiskey tins or bottles that you think, nah, really, seriously, is that in there? But here, I have to say that what it says is pretty spot on. It says fresh green apples, toffee, and a hint of nuttiness. There is the taste of distilling slower than anyone else in Scotland. Blah 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 blah, and I've said the rest. But yeah, it's a really good 10-year-old. You could do a lot worse. I highly recommend it. If you see it, grab yourself a bottle. It's only £32. It's not going to break the bank, and I think it's a must for anyone's whiskey collection. So do check it out. It has my Jamie and his whiskey thumbs up. Okay, that's the end of this review. I'll be back in the next week or two when I will be reviewing the Benriach 10-year-old. At least I think I'll be reviewing the Benriach 10-year-old. And then after that, I'm going to be reviewing a 15-year-old whiskey. Which one is it? I know which one it is. It's amazing. But you'll have to tune in and be patient and find out more nearer the time. Okay, have a great weekend, everybody. This has been Jamie and his whiskey. Please like, share, and subscribe, all the usual stuff. And whatever you're doing, have a lovely weekend. Be safe, take care of each other, and you'll be hearing from me very soon. All the best. Take care. Cheers.